the story that has trickled out this week is that the Commanders are going to be tweaking their uniforms, and that came from a member of the team's employ, right, from their broadcast crew. This is something that we've heard rumblings about since the fall. We've been told they're trying to go back to their roots a little more, something that looks like the early 90s Joe Gibbs Redskins Super Bowl uniforms, and that would obviously be pretty well received, I'd say, by the fan base. But, Danny, let me ask you this. If you were in charge of this project, which has been going on for an extended period of time behind the scenes, with this ownership group, what would you want the uniform tweaks to be?
I want the 1991 jersey combo. The first thing is I would say, what did Joe Gibbs do? They wore white at home. Wear white at home. White tops, burgundy pants with the old school burgundy gold and white stripes on the side. White jersey, again, with the burgundy gold and white piping on the sleeves. That's the time for celebration. That's when they were great. Road jerseys, white pants, single red stripe on the side, burgundy tops with the yellow, with the gold, white, and then the burgundy piping on the sides. Done and done. Helmet's got the stripes. Let's rock and roll. We got to change out the logo. We'll fix that block W when we get a chance to do it. But first things first, 1991 jerseys. That's when it was perfect. Make it so again.
I love that. I'm not going to add a whole lot. I will just say that I do think once a year they should be wearing throwback jerseys that are actual Redskins jerseys. Now, I'm not a crazy person, right?
Mm-hmm.
I understand they're never going to have that Redskins insignia or logo on their uniform again. I'm not suggesting that. But I don't know why they can't have the R as an example, which is not offensive. It's a letter, right? So, like if you remember the Jason Campbell, Chris Cooley team for the 75th anniversary, they had these beautiful yellow helmets with the burgundy R with the white circle. I loved this kit. They had the yellow and burgundy stripes on the sleeves, on the white jersey with the burgundy numbers. I think you could wear that as a throwback. I think they could go back to, really, if they wanted to play it safe, the uniforms that they wore every year for their homecoming game that were like the kind of, I guess you'd say actual gold pants, because the gold pants are like more of a mustard yellow, right? Mm-hmm. But those gold pants with the deep dark burgundy and the very basic like gold numbers. Think about what Robert Griffin or Kirk Cousins wore for those years where they had like the brown helmets that were supposed to be like leather helmets. I think you could wear that once a year and it would look awesome. I don't see why they couldn't wear the throwback jerseys from, maybe it was the 70th anniversary, one of my favorites ever, with like the would have been like not an arrowhead, but almost like the feathered. What would you call this?
I thought it was the spear. The spear look.
Spear is the word I'm looking for. Thank you. A spear with the feather. I don't know why you couldn't do that. I mean, I'm watching the Chiefs Super Bowl against the Eagles from a couple of years ago with the arrowhead and KC on their helmet, right? Like that burgundy, deep burgundy that they wore for that throwback year, I think would play. But there's got to be a way for them to actually have, a true throwback uniform to the Redskins that I would like to see them implement whatever changes they make once a year. But let's see what you guys think. 800-636-1067. Let's go to Felix, who's in Leesburg. Felix, we're in your backyard, man. Come on over to Green Tree Tavern. What's up?
Yeah, I heard about that too late, man. Sold out. First-time caller.
Appreciate you calling in. Thank you, bro.
Anyways, I agree with pretty much everything you just said. I've been a fan since like 72, and the fact is this franchise has had many shades of burgundy and gold, so, you can either, as a primary, go back to the 90s, Gibbs 1.0 version as a primary, or use that as your alternate and go to something more like deeper burgundy. But the one thing they got right, I think, this time around, the one thing and the one thing only is the matte burgundy helmet. I think that looks really cool. It makes whatever detail on the side of the helmet really pop. But
I'm a matte helmet guy. Appreciate the call.
Thanks, buddy.
I think the matte helmets are really cool. I've always liked matte helmets. What about the black uniforms? Because I'm sure you hate them, Danny.
I do hate them, yes.
That's to be expected, easiest layup ever. Mm-hmm. But you've got to acknowledge how popular they are.
Oh, they are. Well, without question.
Especially with young people, how much, that's what kids are buying.
Yes.
That was the jersey Jaden Daniels.
You couldn't find the black Jaden Daniels jersey. Couldn't find it.
I think that's something they've got to wear maybe once a year, even if they go back to the Gibbs kit.
If I get my, let's say, for sake of argument, let's say of the 17 games, if 16 of them are the correct old school 1991 then Redskins, now whatever the dumb team name is, jerseys, yes, fine. I'll trade you one alternate. I'll trade you one Thursday night game where you wear the newfangled thing. As long as I get my thing for the most part, I can live with a couple of tweaks here and there. The problem is when there's no home base of anything that I recognize, and then you also have this newfangled thing that has no connection to the past, then I've been served nothing. Like nothing is coming my way that I would like to eat.
I just don't think you're asking for much if you're a lifetime fan of this team who wants to turn on the TV and see something that looks recognizable to what you loved your whole life. That's not a big ask. And 95% of us are acknowledging you're not getting the old logo, we get it. You're not getting the old name, we get it. But I'd like to not see something that makes me think this is not the team that I watched with my mom and dad when I was a child. That's not a big ask.
Right.
Brad in Manassas, what's going on? How are you?
How are you?
Good, buddy.
I was just curious what you guys' thoughts are. What if the football team made a Florida State Seminole type deal with the Blackfoot tribe? They could go back to the old uniforms, including the logo, and call the team the Washington Blackfeet.
Well, it's just not happening, honestly. And I appreciate the call.
Okay, thank you, bud.
I hate even giving any oxygen to the conversation, and that might annoy people. It's just not reality. Like, we could keep spinning our wheels if we want to. And what if they did this and they honored this team? The ship sailed. That needed to be done 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Meanwhile, Dan Snyder was just trolling people in the USA Today. They missed the boat. And because he was hated and he tormented a lot of people and treated a lot of people terribly, their name and their logo are gone. In addition to the fact that their name and logo is not the same as Chiefs or some of the other phrases, I think most of us can acknowledge that. So that's gone, and it's not coming back. So I'm trying to deal with the reality of what is and not what ifs that are just not practical.
I think that's fair.
I hate to be the bad guy.
No,
I know that I vilify myself. Like, there's a lot of people that hear that, Danny, and are like, screw you, man. I'm sorry. That's just reality.
And I want to be clear. I'm not upset at the question. It's thoughtful.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
Because one of the things we've talked about a number of times is I can't believe what else is allowed to go. And my thing here in Washington was taken away. I understand the Dan Snyder factor, and that's obviously, is a catalyst for all this stuff. But I'm stunned constantly as to that's fine, and nobody really seems to bat an eye, whereas my thing was so beyond defensive that it had to go away immediately, et cetera. So his point's a good one when you're doing comparisons. I don't mind that comparison. I think it's a good thought exercise. But the correct point, I think, is the one that you just made. There's no other way to spell that out. The thing that so many of you are asking about, wanting, care for, I understand. It's also not realistic. Also, no matter how bad you want it, no matter how long you hold your breath.
Or Harris wants it, or let's say the ownership group desperately wanted it. This is all approved by and in some way dictated by the league. The league will not allow for that to happen.
Right.
So we could talk about it if we want to. Just like we could talk about what happens if Danny and I go on a double date with Scarlett Johansson and Jessica Biel.
Let's talk about that, actually.
We actually should do that. That would be a lot of fun.
Our wives are cool with it, too, by the way.
I think they'd be thrilled. Yeah, my wife. I know my wife is fine with it.
Yeah, my wife would be like, dude, go ahead. Good luck. What are you going to say to them?
What change would you make to the uniforms? The news is that the Commanders are tweaking their uniforms. And is anybody willing to say that the new look has grown on them enough that they wouldn't go back to the old one?